Hello, I'm Phil Samita. I'm the treasurer of the 207 EA, and several members have contacted us about having a lot of questions about retirement and the upcoming contract because the contract is about to expire at the end of the 2019-2020 school year. And we want to put together a video that explains some things about what's going to happen with the contract or what is happened so far with people who are retiring. So that's what this video is about. It's going to cover some different topics. It's going to talk about who's going to be eligible for any retirement program, regardless of what we negotiate, what has existed in the past, what the sick day part of retirement has looked like and will look like in the future, and some specific things like what if you plan on retiring in these specific bands, June 21 to June 2023, if you plan on retiring June 2024, June 2025, or later than June 2025, what that means for you. So who's eligible for any retirement program? It has to be someone who follows one of these two requirements. They're either going to turn 60 years old during the last school year that person intends to teach, or they're going to accumulate 35 years of creditable earnings. Now that can include up to 2 years of sick leave. Now 2 years of sick leave means 340 days. You have to have 170 days of sick leave for one school year. Even though our school year is 185 school days currently, you still only have to have 170 sick days to make up one school year in the eyes of TRS. So that's all you need to have. But you need to have, you have 340 days are what you need during that last school year to get those 2 years of creditable earnings. So you only have to have 33 years of teaching if you have that in order to have enough years to be able to retire. There are some rules related to your birthday that you may need slightly less, but you'll have to talk to TRS about those rules. Okay. If you've passed either of those points, if you already have your 33 years or 35 years, okay. Now, or you've already turned 60, okay, you may retire, but you may not receive an incentive. Okay. Now, if you have 34 years, but you have 2 years of sick, you're still eligible. You're not required to turn in your sick leave as creditable earnings unless that sick leave has already been turned into the TRS from a previous employer. If it's already credited in TRS, like if you go to your TRS account and it says you have sick leave on the books, that does count. But if that sick leave is credited with the district, I believe you do not have to use it toward your retirement. You could just leave it in your account here. In this slide, we're going to talk about the retirement program that currently exists in the current contract, the one that ends in this school year. And it only applies, as written, it only applies to bargaining unit members whose retirement dates occur before June 30th, 2020. It is a sunset date, and it clearly says that if you retire after this date, this retirement program does not apply to you. And what that retirement program includes is it includes an incentive to help increase the teacher's salary to 6%. It has a pot of money, and they take money out of it to increase your salary to 6% until you run out of that pot of money. It includes insurance payments if you don't remain on the District 207 plan, and it includes a life insurance policy as well. Okay. That original contract language that's in the contract and the extension, because remember it was part of a 2012-2015 contract that the membership voted to extend in 2014 until it continued through the year 2020. But that original contract language included 170 sick days as well as part of the plan. But that was actually moved to a memorandum of understanding between the union and the district. We're going to talk about that next. As I said, those 170 sick days were moved to a memorandum of understanding in May of 2017. They separated it from the retirement program. It extends it through the 2024-2025 school year. So if you're retiring if your last year is 2024-2025, it's still possible to receive those days. Now, it requires a letter of resignation and retirement by the last day of the 5th year before retirement. So what that means is if you plan on retiring in 2024, 2025, you need to put in a letter on the 5th year, 2020, 2021. That is the 5th year before you retire. When you put in that letter, submission of it you don't have to say it in a separate agreement, but submission of it means that you agree not to participate in the district's insurance plan after retirement. The previous agreement allows you to participate in that plan, but you have to pay the entire cost of the insurance. You're saying if you submit a letter for these sick days that you won't participate in that plan. It does say that if there's a different plan in the future, that the terms may change. So if something that is different is put in the next negotiated successor agreement, the next contract, there may be a different set of benefits. But as it is right now, if you submit a letter, you agree not to participate in the district insurance plan. You'll have to use TRIP, the Teacher's Retirement Insurance Plan, or pay for some sort of Affordable Care Act plan, or use a spouse's plan, or find some other way to be insured. Now, we're going to talk about each scenario, like when you're retiring. Let's say you plan on retiring next school year, June 2021, or one of the 2 school years after that. Now, if you wanted to get the 170 sick days, you cannot. You would have had to have applied the 5th year out. And the reason for that is actually simple. The reason for that is because there is no cost for the district if they add those 170 sick days 5 years out. But if they add them in the 4th or the 3rd or the 2nd or the last year, they pay a substantial employer payment to Teacher Retirement System for doing so. So as part of the agreement, we said that they would not have to add those days. So you cannot get those sick days added as part of the current agreements between the school board and the union. Again, as part of the current contract, you must retire by June 2020. So you cannot participate in that agreement either, as it stands now. Okay. However, there is a new contract that's going to start to be negotiated over this winter and spring of 2020. If there's retirement incentive language in that contract, it's possible that you'd be eligible for participation for the year, depending on how many of those final 4 years are remaining. So if you retire in 2021, it's possible that during that final school year, you could receive some kind of salary incentive for submitting a letter of resignation and retirement. If it's 2022, it could be 2 years. If it's 2023, it could be 3 years. But again, we don't know what it will look like. We know that that's a possibility. If you're retiring in 2024, you can get the 170 sick days added to your account. That's still possible for you, but you'll need to submit a letter of resignation and retirement for May 2024 by the end of the school year. This school year, the one that we're currently in as I speak. Now, even if the contract's not settled, you'll still need to submit this letter to get those sick days. That is separate. It's a memorandum of understanding, separate from the contract. So it has to be settled. It has to be sent to them. But it has to be done by the end of the school year. It doesn't have to have been done already. Okay. You're still not eligible to participate in the current, as in the 2012 through 2020 contracts retirement plan. Okay. If there are retirement incentives in the next contract, you'll likely be eligible for all those incentives. Okay. But if you don't submit a resignation and retirement letter by the end of this year, that doesn't mean you won't be able to participate in the next retirement incentive plan. Some members have said, well, if I don't submit now, I won't be able to get those 4 years of, if there are bonus money. I need to make sure I'm ready for that just in case, to prepare for it. And that's not necessary. In the past, we have always allowed members, even in years, say, where we didn't agree by the end of the school year, we've always been able to let members retroactively agree to be a part of the retirement incentive. That's never been an issue. So historically, we've never had that problem. If you retire a year after that, so 2 school years from the time I'm speaking, or would be the time you'd have to submit a letter. Okay, you can still get the 170 sick days. That is the last year covered by the memorandum of understanding. But you won't submit a letter of resignation and retirement during this school year. You will wait an additional school year. I mean, I suppose you could this year, but there's no benefit to it. You get more flexibility if you wait until the end of the next school year, the 2020-2021 school year. Of course, you're not eligible for the plan that's in the current contract, the 2012-2020 contract. And if there is a plan in the next contract, you'll probably get the opportunity to participate in it for all 4 years before retirement. And again, if it applies based on the language of the contract. We're not sure how that will work. You'll remember that the last contract had a limit to it. We'll see if that limit applies in the next agreement. If you're retiring later than 2025, well, we're not sure. You're really in kind of a gray area. You're definitely not eligible to participate in the contract that is currently going on, because you won't be able to submit a letter, because that's more than, heck, that's at least 6 years from the time I'm speaking now. Okay. If there's in the next contract, you may get an opportunity to participate in it, depending on the language. Okay, but it's also past the date covered by the memorandum of understanding. If there's an extension to the sick days agreement, you may be able to participate in it. Okay, if such an agreement is made, you'd likely get the opportunity to participate in it with a letter of resignation and retirement during the 5th year before retirement. Those rules for teacher retirement system, they haven't changed at all, so they would definitely be covered. Okay. So I think that's where we're at there. Later than 2025, you really are waiting to see what the next contract looks like before you can do anything. One important thing that we want to emphasize, and I think that it's been said a couple of times already, is we don't know what the retirement language will look like in the next contract. We're not sure, and that's being discussed at the bargaining table over the months in the winter and the spring of 2020. Of course, when the language is put together and is ratified by the members, we'll do everything we can to make it possible for as many people to take advantage of the plan. Of course, we're representing all the members, and retirees are, of course, members. So we want to make sure that they can be a part of whatever plan is put together. Members that are retiring have worked hard. They've made substantial contributions to the educations of tens of thousands of young people. And both the MTA, the 207EA, and the board recognize that. And they want to make sure that those people are taken care of. If you have questions, you can always talk to our president, Julia Hayden. Her email is on the screen. If you have questions, you can always talk to our administrator, our current assistant superintendent for general administration, Greg Dietz. I have spoken with him before we put this video out and talked to him about the items in it, and he was able to concur that the items in it are reasonable. If you have questions about your account, you really want to call Teacher Retirement System. Talking to them 10 years out is a good thing. Talking to them 5 years out is a necessity. And talking to them the year of retirement is absolutely required, particularly if you've had any changes in your family status. If there's been a divorce or a remarriage, you want to make sure that those things are covered. You can see their toll-free number there, visiting their website. It's always a good thing to look at. And we wish you a lot of luck, and we're very proud of our teachers here in the district, and we're very proud to represent you. And if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to send them to Julia. And again, thank you for listening.